Our guest today is the Chief Executive Officer for the United Neighborhood Organization, UNO. UNO is the largest Hispanic community-based organization in metropolitan Chicago. Since becoming Chief Executive Officer in 1996, our guest today has sought to refine UNO's mission to, number one, honor immigrant roots and values. Number two, challenge Hispanics to reach their full potential. And number three, facilitate their assimilation as our nation's newest Americans. Under his leadership today, UNO has become the single largest charter school operator and management company in Illinois. Number two, the largest national Hispanic charter school operator. And number three, by 2012, UNO charter schools will serve more than 6,200 students nationwide. Our guest today, yes, there we go. Our guest today earned his bachelor's degree from Northeastern Illinois University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago, Juan Rangel. Juan, thank you very much. All right, have fun up here. Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you very much, Jay, for having me here once again for the fourth time, so that's a good thing, I think. And before I begin my remarks, I promised that I would do a little promo, and anytime I have a chance to do public speaking. So I'd just like to let you all know that I, along with Mayor Daley, were selected to be part of the inaugural members of the Pink Tie Guys, the Chicagoland area affiliate of Susan G. Komen for the Cure Against Breast Cancer. And I hope you'll join us all next week, Thursday, October 13th, 6 p.m. at the Tribune Towers in support of this great cause. So thank you very much. So once again, thank you very much, Jay and Paul Green. He's become a good friend of ours at UNO, and thank you to the City Club. For the past 4 years, I've given you a historical, yet a pragmatic perspective on the immigrant experience in Chicago. I've spoken about how Chicago has always been challenged by its newcomers and how the city has always met that challenge by seeing the opportunities those immigrants brought with them. As I said then, Chicago didn't become the hog butcher to the world or the city of big shoulders by shutting out its newest arrivals. I've also given you a political perspective on those thoughts and have given you an insight on how the evolving world of local Latino politics has in many ways followed that path of empowerment and succeeded, and how at times, too many times, has failed our community. I spoke to you about how Hispanics have proven that they can wield political power. And last year, I proposed a roadmap for our reform-minded times, a shift in our Hispanic minority paradigm that challenges our community and doesn't pander to it, one that seizes on the aspirations of our community to get ahead, coupled with the expectations that set by that classic American story of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, and which also embraces the classic working class lunch bucket values. I also presented the concept of assimilation and Americanization as a strategy that has always worked to transition immigrants into broader society. Unfortunately, these concepts, which are tragically being shunned for political correct reasons, are not part of the strategy today. Yet I strongly believe that assimilation needs to become the quid pro quo of our times. Quid pro quo, that's something that Chicagoans can understand. A quid pro quo that provides immigrants the same opportunities to succeed that all Americans enjoy, but that equally challenges America's newest arrivals on their commitment to the welfare of our nation and promotes American democratic ideals and values. We are, after all, the land known as e pluribus unum, of many, one. But at times it seems that we are all too eager to embrace the e pluribus part, which fits quite well with the PC multicultural movement and not enough emphasis is placed on the one. That is a mistake. We are, after all, one nation, under God, indivisible. We need to intentionally promote what makes us one, what makes us American. The problem is that we have relied on leadership with good intentions, but with a wrong-headed approach and strategies that have caused a backlash for our community. We have taken a community that once was heralded for its work ethic and family values, the underdog, if you will, which middle America loved to cheer on to victory, and have managed to turn it into a minority, a people of color, a victim demanding the next entitlement program. In an era of high unemployment, foreclosures, and budget cuts, this is a bad strategy. Beyond that, victimization undermines and underestimates the immigrant spirit that got us here in the first place. I have been consistent in my message. Victimization does not work. The burdens and hardship endured by immigrants in a foreign land is par for the course, but not obstacles that cannot be overcome. Immigrants know this too well. They have their eyes on the prize, economic success. What is missing is the same emphasis on schooling, on education. What we have done in our political empowerment and economic empowerment, we need to do similarly with our academic achievement. We need to challenge immigrants to put the same tenacity on academic success. Yet there are scholars and activists alike who will preach a different line. Let me read you a passage from a book titled The Latino Education Crisis, The Consequences of Failed Social Policies. And it reads, "Whatever the solutions, most supporters of education reform agree that the problem is fixable if only schools can muster the will, the resources, and the talent to address it. We agree that schools can do a great deal more to improve the achievement of Latino students. And clearly, many American schools, especially those serving the majority of Latino students, are in desperate need of reform. But the crisis in Latino education goes beyond what schools can do, even if we were given far greater resources than taxpayers appear to be willing to commit or politicians are willing to request. Instead, the increasing failure of Latinos to achieve the American dream is embedded in the very origins of that dream. The American mythology that everyone can make it in this country, no matter the circumstances they encounter, if they simply work hard enough. The American mythology. Ladies and gentlemen, that perspective is the problem we have today. It's not the lack of resources, it's not the lack of talent as was suggested in that book. It is the lack of confidence that we have in Hispanic immigrants' ability to succeed, and the lack of confidence that we have in our nation's exceptionalism to inspire the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses. It is the allure of both the challenge and the opportunity that brings immigrants like my parents to come to the United States, to a place like Chicago, to work hard and to succeed. But the good intentions of a Latino empowerment movement have now become the very vehicle which we underestimate and truly victimize a community, its hopes, its dreams, and its aspirations. This must change and it's up to our leaders, current and future, Latinos or not, to do so. A good start is with its schools. Contrary to scholars, and activists, the school is the ideal setting for creating educated and engaged American citizens. We must go back to our history, if we know it, to understand the very purpose of why the American public school system was created in the first place, to develop new Americans. Think of colonial times, so be with me here. To instill a shared purpose as a nation and to be united under one flag and one language. But we have lost sight of this, much to the detriment of today's immigrants. We need to regain the political will to remake today's public schools. In the past, City Club remarks have always kept from promoting the work of UNO. But it's hard not to mention our UNO schools as an example of what is doable for neighborhood Hispanic kids, especially given our successes. As magical as that experience is, there is no magic, just hard work on behalf of our school directors, our teachers, our parents, and our children. It is a model not only for Chicago, but for our nation as it grapples with the questions of immigration and immigrants in America today. Some statistics for you about the UNO schools. We serve 5,400 students. 99% of them are minority. 95% are Hispanic. 94% are low income or at or below the poverty line. 40% are English language learners. UNO students are outperforming the CPS schools and our neighborhood school equivalent. Our students are immersed in English. We do not use the traditional bilingual transition program. Most of our teachers are not minority. Most of them do not speak a word of Spanish, yet they manage to succeed in teaching our children. Go figure. We have created a culture for teaching and learning. We have set the bar high with our expectations, and guess what? Our children meet them. We have an affinity for discipline and culture of good behavior, with quiet hallways, straight lines, and uniforms. Our schools in the neighborhoods do what the Catholic schools once did for the immigrant children of yesteryear, without the nuns and the rulers, by the way. We recruit the best teachers. If a teacher is not performing, we support them with improvement plans and coaching. Ultimately, we do remove teachers who just don't work out. Teachers perform 2 home visits per year, and each year we assess our progress with multiple tests. Yes, we believe that tests are important to gauge the achievement of our students. And yes, we have a longer school day, from 7:30 a.m. breakfast to 3 p.m. dismissal. We have a longer school year with 190 instructional school days as opposed to the traditional CPS calendar of 170 school days. Next year, we will be adding an additional half hour to the school day, and that will be a total of 1,425 instructional hours, which is 50%, think about this, 50% more than the 946 hours that students currently receive at the Chicago Public Schools. Our first day of school was August 1st. No more summer vacations. August 1st. We have an average, and at that point, I thought our attendance was going to plummet, considering this was the first time we were starting on August 1st. We had an average of 97% attendance for the school year and on the first school day. We also teach civics, civic values, and citizenship at our schools, which is at the heart of what makes our schools succeed. For ours is a classic American school. Our students honor the flag by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance every morning and at every public event, which, by the way, I don't know if you caught this, there was an item in the Sun-Times not too long ago, about a few weeks ago. There's a town in Massachusetts that wants to ban the Pledge of Allegiance because they think it's akin to a totalitarian regime by forcing kids to say that, which I believe is part of the problem. We honor our war heroes on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. We instill a sense of responsibility and civic duty on Election Day through our mock elections. We encourage our families to become naturalized U.S. citizens and host a swearing-in ceremony every Flag Day at our school. We organize our 8th grade trip to our nation's capital for them to see firsthand the democratic institutions that hold our nation together, albeit a bit dysfunctional at times. And this year, our 7th graders will travel to New York to honor the fallen 9/11 victims at Ground Zero and visit Ellis Island to witness a nation's immigrant past as they live and make our nation's new history. We organize a Boy Scout troop at every UNO campus and make UNO the largest Boy Scout unit in Illinois. Somehow, the Scouts have become a pariah to society. Go figure. And we instill a love of country to our students and our families as the nation's newest Americans. But don't get me wrong, we also build on and celebrate our immigrant culture and heritage. We honor our family values and our work ethic. We teach Spanish as a second language to improve our students' basic knowledge they learn at home or on the streets. But why stop there with language? Our high schoolers take 4 years of Mandarin and will be visiting China next year as part of their senior trip. So if anyone wants to contribute to our kids' trip to China, we are accepting donations. So, all of this is to say that it is doable. No excuses, no apologies. And let's not assume that there's something inherently wrong with Hispanics in our midst. What is wrong is our collective will to see this through, and that must change. Thank you all very much.
Okay, if we have questions for Juan, who may not be making an endorsement. Juan has made a career also of being very shrewd with his endorsements. We'll just leave it at that. Some of you know what I'm talking about, others of you don't. And if you don't know, I don't care. So let's have some questions. Here we go again. Jay, we got to need some plants in here to ask some questions. Well, you got to write it out, but okay, I'm desperate man. Go ahead.
Juan, could you talk about college admissions and the trend, if you can, regarding UNO students in high school?
For UNO students, we're just graduating our first high school senior class this year, so we don't have necessary trends. But I think overall it's good. It's very positive. I think the numbers look bad if you comparison. You always have the apples to oranges comparisons. Compared to the white community, Hispanics look really bad. But I think we need to get off of that and start thinking of it as considering the length of time that Hispanics had been here and considering their histories. I think we're making pretty good progress. And think of what happens in one generation. You could have an undocumented parent from one generation, and within the next generation, what I've seen so many times, kids graduating from college, going on to have law degrees and all that. So it is very positive. I think it's very positive. We do have some negatives in the sense that we have a very high dropout rate within our public schools, and those things need to change if we're going to make the progress that we need to see in this country.
Well, you stacked the crowd, right? That's it. Yes, no one wants to write. Okay, we'll go back to the old days. Go ahead.
I like the old days.
Wait, there's Kathy posing the question.
State your name first.
My name is Maria. I'm really blessed in Chicago to have a community that is mostly very supportive of immigrants and that does recognize its history. In places like Arizona, Alabama, where the Latino community is being attacked, what kind of role do you think you could play in places like Chicago where we do have a little bit more of a friendly attitude?
Look, what's going on in Arizona and Alabama and all that is politics. Very simple. And my whole thing has always said, and I've said this before, we have to stop with the marches, stop doing all those kinds of things, and register people to vote. The minute the numbers of registered voters, or eligible registered voters, are truly registered and vote, you're going to see every politician pandering to that community. It's the lack of voting that causes people to go the other way. The politicians in Alabama, and we can say, oh, they're racist and they're all that kind of stuff, they're simply going where the votes are at. If we register people to vote and they come out and vote, you're going to see everybody's attitude change completely the other way. It's politics. But we haven't learned that lesson. Instead, it's so much easier. Let's take a day off. Let's go march downtown. Let's have a big rally. That's easy. We need to get back to the old political organizations that hustle and knock on doors, register people to vote, and get them out to vote on election day. If we do that, if every activist, every elected official, every leader in this town does that, you're going to see attitudes change completely across the country.
I don't know, but we may have to compare our DNA because, boy, that sounds an awful lot like Paul Green for many decades. Let me tell you. There's people here who are not Latinos who are all children or grandchildren of immigrants, right, Senator Berman? Right? We're all immigrants, except if you speak Navajo. I mean, we're all immigrants. So this is not a big deal. I'll stop. He's doing a much better job. Bill Hood, do you have Teach for America teachers in your schools?
Yes, we do. Teach for America is a program, a national program that takes non-traditional teachers or people in different professions and brings them into the teacher fold through training and others and alternative certification. And it's been a great program. We have about 10% of our teachers are TFA alum, and it's working really good. We have a very good partnership. Full disclosure, I'm on the board of TFA here in Chicago. But unfortunately, this is a group that's doing very well, and lo and behold, it has enemies. It's people that are trying to shoot them down, trying to argue against Teach for America, and I think that's, again, it's the politics around education. But we're very supportive of TFA, Teach for America.
We have a question from Letitia Hudson. Where are you, Letitia? All right, I can't read this word. Do you have blank programs for the kids?
Do you have any entrepreneurial programs after school for the children?
Entrepreneurial programs. Let me tell you, if that's entrepreneurial,
That's very entrepreneurial.
the CIA is calling. Go ahead.
Could you explain a little bit more what you mean by entrepreneurial programs of kids? What do you?
With your schooling, with education, do you have something in place for them so that when they are about to graduate, they can decide, I want to be an employee or I want to be an owner of a business?
I'll tell you what we do with our high school students. I think we try to prepare them for college and try to get them to see themselves in that light. Unfortunately, too many kids don't see beyond the next day, and we need to inspire them to think that they have another future. So what we don't do at our schools, and this is kind of a joke at UNO with our high school director, that we do have electives, we just don't allow the students to choose them. We tell them what electives to choose. And so we have a very rigorous program that focuses on only the things that they're going to need to succeed in college. That means 4 years of writing, 4 years of math, science, and all those things that kids usually don't want to take after their 3 years or 2 years that they're required to do. We have 4 years of Mandarin. That's a requirement. That's not an option. And if things keep going the way we think they're going, we're going to all have to speak Chinese at some point. So those are all important. So a lot of the things, kind of the stuff that you're talking about, I think we would leave it more kind of after school or partnering with organizations that may provide different kind of services or programs like that, or universities. But really we try to stick to the basics of what they're going to need so they can succeed. And we want them to be college ready. And we don't want them to, you know, when you're in high school, you goof off a lot. We don't want them to goof off. So we can't, there's just no room for that. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it gives you a sense of what we do.
Full disclosure, I'll be in Beijing next week, troubleshooting for UNO. We have two questions. They're about the same. Olga from Mesro. Where are you, Olga? Pronounce your last name. You're right. And we have Mildred Wiley. And the question basically is, can you please comment on parental involvement at UNO Charter Schools?
Parental involvement has to be a must, and it can't be, look how many volunteers we have at the school. Because usually what happens when you have, every school has parent involvement, and you always know them. There's the same 15 people, usually moms, that hang out at the school. And that's good. We want that. But to me, that's not parent involvement. Parent involvement is parents that are engaged with their children every single day, at home, on weekends. They may or may not come to the school every so often, but they need to be engaged with their children. They need to build a relationship and a rapport with their children. And we force that on them. That's an expectation. That's what we want. But I'll tell you, a key ingredient in having parent involvement is our teachers. And I salute our teachers that are willing to go do a house visit twice a year. For a classroom with 32 students, that's 64 home visits in 1 year. That does tremendous help in sending a message to the parents that we care enough about your kid that you need to step up and do your part as a parent. And I always say, there's an old saying that parents are the child's first teacher. Well, I'd like to say that we're not asking them to be a teacher, we're asking them to be a parent. And I think our parents understand that. I don't think we mince any words about what we need from them. We're not a babysitter, we're a school. And we will do our part, but if they don't do their part, then that's not going to guarantee success. And I think when we are honest and upfront with parents, I think that they'll step up. And we've seen that parents are there. They take it very seriously because we take it seriously. And again, the magic that occurs when a teacher comes to the doorstep, I think it speaks volumes about what the intent is here. So I would certainly encourage the public schools to do more of that as well.
We have a few more questions. Here's a quick one from Miles Berman. Can you describe how Uno charter school teachers are paid and promoted as compared to the public schools?
I'll tell you, we tried to, up until last year, we tried to keep up with the Chicago Public School salaries, but unfortunately last year we were cut by 4%. So I asked our teachers if they would forego a raise, and that wasn't an option. That was just our financial reality. So since then, we haven't been able to get back on the track that we wanted. There's a myth about charters, and partly because they look good, they have great test scores and all that, that's because they get more money. Well, actually, charter schools get less money, and I think that's the article that was in the paper today. They get less money. We get 75% of what a Chicago public school gets, a traditional school gets. And we don't get much facilities support. I think we have about $425 per student for facilities, but the reality, it costs us somewhere about $1,500 to have a facility. We don't get a building. We have to figure out where we're going to house our schools. Many of our schools are in former parochial schools, so we pay rent to the archdiocese. A hefty rent to the archdiocese. And thanks to the state of Illinois, we had a nice grant that's paying for new construction. We just opened up our first school with that part of that money, and we just put out an RFP yesterday for our next two schools that are coming up. But that's, at some point, CPS is going to have to step up if they see charters as a viable option and a strategy for success. And step up in terms of the money that comes to charters. And that will allow us to pay teachers even more.
Okay. That was a pretty tough question. I'll give you a softball here. Roberto Sepulveda. Where are you, Roberto? MCI class of 2012. MLI. You must have heard me speak at it, right? That's the reason you're... as I said, MLI. Are there any plans to expand Area Uno schools to the suburbs?
We get asked that a lot. We'd love to. Obviously, there's a tremendous need across the region. Places like Melrose Park, Aurora, Des Plaines, Waukegan, Bensonville. We'd love to be in Bensonville. So, but all of it is all in due time. And for now, we do have our hands full here in Chicago. We're growing very fast. 6 years ago, we only had one school, and we're now up to 11. And next year, we're looking at opening up 3 schools total. That's a very rapid growth, but certainly the suburbs are part of that picture, hopefully.
You know what's coming. Yeah, and every Uno school is going to have a sign, 6,000 students served, and then 10,000 students served, and as they keep franchising out. I should have done it in Spanish. Yeah. Like McDonald's.
You have to explain it.
Oh, boy.
You have to explain it.
Now you see why they don't ask me back to MLI. Okay, here we go. Jan Promer from Adler Planetarium. How is UNO working to improve math and science achievement?
Math and science are what we consider part of the basic package. It shouldn't be optional, it shouldn't be kind of, and we also do this. That's part of the program. That's part of the expectation. And I think too many times we forget, as what I was saying earlier, in terms of what do we need to offer our kids so they can be successful, not only in elementary school and high school, but beyond that, and set the bar high. Again, I don't think that anything that we do is, and there's a myth, the other myth is that we pick and choose our kids. We don't pick and choose our kids. It's blind lottery. They come in droves, And we have to select them, and we end up with over half of those on a waiting list because we don't have enough room in our schools. There's a demand there. And so clearly it's working with a population that otherwise might be failing in the traditional public schools. But what we offer them is, I tell you, I don't think it's that sophisticated. It's going back to the basics of what we all know is needed for kids to succeed. And that's reading, it's math, it's science, English, very important. But we forget those things. And again, I don't see those subjects as other. It's part of the package.
Okay. The final question, it comes from Greg. Is that Greg Christian? The Organic School Project. What are you doing about school lunches, serving children healthier food?
School lunches. I'll tell you, I used to say that the airlines used to serve better food than the school cafeterias because it's always, no offense to any of the airlines that might be here. But I think that's a tough one in that I think we'd love to be able to serve better food. I think we do. I think we offer much better food service than what we've have in the past. But like anything, it's a business. It's you get only so much money per child, and you have to make it work. And I think some of you might remember back in the 80s that ketchup was deemed a vegetable because. Right. Very good. So I got it. And people do that. Those become public policy because it's just hard to make it work with the money that's given for food service. But I think what Greg and others are looking at organic food, and that has a price tag to it as well. I think those are areas that we'd love to be able to explore. And we ask ourselves a question, like, just on a very basic level, should every school building have a cafeteria, a kitchen of its own, or should that be something that's more centrally located so we can save money on the kitchen itself and put more money on the food service itself? So I think it's a tough question, but we're certainly looking at exploring the future of food service for our schools.
Well, we have a bonus round question only because she is also a member of the 2012 MLI class. Carmen Rivera, where are you, Carmen? I see you there. My eyes have been fixed. Do UNO students have access to fine arts music programs?
Yes. In spite of our budget cuts, that was one of the areas that we did want to cut. And I think that that's always the easy ones because art and music and PE are usually regarded as the other programs, and we don't believe that. We believe very strongly that it is part of the whole. It's what makes a kid very well-rounded, as they say, and we don't want to cut art and music, and we'll figure out a way to restructure, make some cuts in administration and other ways, but not in art and music. So all of our schools do have art and music.
How about a round of applause for that? You got enough.